If I press the right one, I think so.
Yep, it says recording in the upper corner there.
I know it records, but it's just that it records, it gives you a choice. You can either do it on the cloud, which is what I usually do, or on my own computer. When I do it on my own computer, it's terrible because I have to figure out how to convert it and then to send it out. So hopefully I press the right button. But if I didn't, I can still, I've saved it before. So the people at Zoom are really nice. You just call them up and say, you know, I did a stupid thing. I pressed the wrong button, and they say, oh, we can fix that for you. You know, so
Good.
I know they're getting tired of me calling them, and I make the same mistake all the time.
Bless people who help us with computers. Special blessing.
Yeah, it's all a blessing. You have to look at it positively. Anyway. So, John, did you get a lot of rain up there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of rain.
Yeah. Not too much flooding, I hope?
No, not that. I mean, I know up closer to like Ellicott City and stuff, they're flooding. Not flooding like they did, but, you know, it's heavy rains, definitely.
I know. Yeah, here in D.C., it doesn't last too long. It just, you know, like cats and dogs for a few minutes and then it goes away. So I don't know. I've had enough of it myself.
Indeed.
But I don't get to choose.
As long as we're safe. I could just be thankful.
Yeah. Well, no, not the time nor the hour. My downstairs neighbor passed away. I think I told you, Trish.
Yeah.
It's really suddenly, unexpectedly. He was there in the afternoon, and then the evening he was gone. So not as peacefully as who is it? Siddha Ramesh. Who was he the one that was laughing and all of a sudden he departed?
No, that's Balseb Maharaj. He was clapping.
Oh. Clapping
during the bhajans and then whoop, left the body.
That's cool. That's the way I want to go.
You will. You'll be laughing at some joke.
Okay. Well, and knowing what you know, there should be no, like Maharaj says, there should be no consideration that I am dying. There's just...
Oh, no, I don't have that. That is not an issue. I don't have any issue with that. I just don't like the suffering part. But, you mean, the dying is no big deal. Because you're not really, you know, I mean, you're not a body, so you're not really dying.
Exactly.
Yeah, who dies is the question.
Yeah, I don't have any of the psychological, but what I do have is fear around deteriorating. That's where my fear is.
Well, you, the selfless self, the formlessness, aren't going to deteriorate. The body you're using may. Because it's made up of the 5 elements, and the 5 elements are going to all collapse back into themselves, deteriorating because each one can deteriorate. Like Maharaj says, when you stop providing food and water for the body, it dries up and returns back to the 5 elements.
Well, I don't mind, as I say, I don't mind it if it just goes quickly, if it doesn't, you know, do a long, involved, painful thing where I get in. Because then, see, if there's pain in the body, what happens for me is identification starts coming in.
And you have mantra.
You're right. But I seem to forget, you know, there's a habit there of my body shouldn't hurt or something and blah, 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 blah.
No, I understand. Just like Maharaj right now, I mean, he's having really a lot of trouble with the body and coughing and all this sort of stuff. And yet he's showing like, okay, this body is having a lot of problems. He can barely walk sometimes. Yeah. And still he's talking and moving around, going to bhajan. Now, not so much. I sent the email around that he is in Bede, I think is the name of the city. And Dr. Daraj, who is a devotee, is taking care of him.
Is that
I saw that you...
from Nashik? Is it far?
It's, oh yeah, actually it is 2.5 hours, I think, or no, more than that. I think I looked it up online. It's a ways away from Nashik, yes.
Oh,
Because from Mumbai, instead of a 4-hour cab ride, it's 12. So yeah, it's got to be at least 6 or 7 hours away from Nashik.
oh my.
Wow.
Oh, I hope he had a smooth trip.
Well, he did. He got there and all's well.
Yeah, but we still don't have an idea. It sounds not real good for the trip to the U.S.
Yeah, I don't know. Right now, he's just resting and trying to recuperate physical body, not even to travel, just to be able to sleep and relax and rest. And that's why I sent the pictures of him with his feet up. And I put I put this in the Ashram newsfeed. I remember when I went to India and I was sitting there. I have a problem with my ankle. It's got 6 screws in it. So I wasn't able to really sit on the floor, but I wanted to be respectful. And I pulled up a chair and he's like, oh, no, be comfortable, be comfortable. And when I saw Maharaj with his feet up, relaxed, that's the first thing that popped into my mind was, be comfortable, Maharaj, be comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Keith has joined us. Hello, Keith.
Yeah, hello.
okay.
Hi, Keith.
It looks like we have, and Mary is on. She's,
Yep. She said she might have to leave early, but she is here. Hello, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
yeah, she doesn't often turn on her. She didn't turn her sound on, so she's okay. She's there.
Good.
Yeah. Well, you know what, John? I discovered a cool thing to do with the mantra. I was telling Trish, I'm babysitting for some cats, and they like to purr, and they like to sit next to me. And so when I do my mantra along with the rhythm of their purring.
Oh,
and
very nice.
It provides like a sound and a vibration to go with the mantra.
Very nice.
So it really is cool, and it worked.
Very nice.
I was, sort of down in it because of stuff that happened. And I was like, oh boy, So I got into this cat, and it was like all of a sudden the depression had just lifted.
Very nice.
Wow, this really works. I'm just sitting here with the Kit Kats, and they're helping me.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
I'm going to try that with my cat because I haven't. She comes in the morning. She gets under the sheets and purrs. So I'm going to try with her.
Good.
It slows the mind. The mind just can't. There's no room for the mind because it's occupied, with the mantra and the vibrations and the. So that was a cool discovery.
Yes. Yeah, this mantra is that's why they call it the master key. It's the master key to unlock and basically unlock this skin suit pressure of all this body and just be with your selfless self.
Yeah. Well, it's so simple and yet so easily overlooked. It's just like if the spinning mind, if I can, do the mantra, then it cuts down on the spinning it cuts it out. And so then there's just being, there's just, okay, nothing to do, nothing to, there's no past, no future. It's just right now. And, kitties are there, and I look out the window and I see all the beautiful trees and the sunlight. I think, wow, why isn't this enough? This is enough.
And so the mind is always trying to grasp at objects, and so the object of the attention becomes the mantra.
Yeah.
And that's like what you said. It's like a subtle thing. Even if you were to, in a room, if you were to pay attention to the space and nothing inside the room and just like really try to pay attention to the space, and then you'd see the movement inside the space, but you'd be paying attention to the space. But our minds are just like, it just disregards all the space and just goes right to the object. What's this object? And then starts the judgmentalism of, well, how can this object like benefit me or in some way I can use this object? And like you said, you're just sitting there, mantra, and watch the trees and everything beautiful. And there's no grasping mind.
Oh. No, it's a relief in a way, because then you also see how much of the time the mind is occupied like that. It's either going in the past and regurgitating something that happened in the past, or it's looking in the future, you know. And I've heard the mind is not capable of being in the present, because when you're in the present, there's no mind, there's no activity.
There's nothing to think about. You just are there, like formlessly aware. There's no thinking needed unless you're trying to create past and future on the screen. And you're just formlessly aware through mantra, paying attention to the mantra. And it's very nice. The cats, they're in rhythm, because again, remember, the truth is it's all inside your selfless self, all appearing on spontaneous presence. So you're getting with the rhythm of life, so to speak, feeling it through the various forms.
Right.
And you're using this form as kind of a telescope to see inside of this bubble of illusion, so to speak. But you're able to feel this cat vibration at the same time mantra, and you're concentrating on the concentrator, inviting attention of the invisible listener.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So the good thing about a cat is it doesn't speak to you.
Indeed, yeah. Even trying to make casual chit chat. So, how was your day today? Shh. No. Mantra, quiet.
My girlfriend used to have a Siamese. She said it talked and yapped all the time. She couldn't shut it up. It was annoying, but so it depends on the cat. But.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just they're just being, because they have no idea of the past or the future either. You know, they're just being in the moment, and you can't control them. They just do what they do, and you realize that's kind of a lesson in itself, because, you know, who am I to tell them, you know, well, you should be in this corner and not the other corner. You know, it's like, as long as I don't do anything dangerous, you know, I just like, okay, you know, this is life unfolding, and, you know, and it's just the witness. I don't know, not even a witness. There's nobody there. It's just happening.
They don't ask questions. They don't give opinions.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can just be with them without trying to be anything at all. You can sit there and just in mantra. And one step more, if you look at the room, and like Maharaj says, if you want to all compare, you compare yourself to space or sky. And the space in the room is seeing the objects in the room using these eyes in a way. So you start to see that, okay, this space, in this space, there's this body, Kathleen, and this body, Cat. I don't know what your name of your cat is, but this body, Cat. And this mantra is just vibrating throughout the existence. Yeah. It's opening the door to your selfless self, like Maharaj says. You're opening the open secret, and you're not putting so much pressure on body, because the only way you keep having all this body knowledge is to keep thinking about the body, that I am this body and I have to worry about this and all that. But if you're identifying yourself at all with the space surrounding this cat and this body named Kathleen, and you know that you're that space basically where these objects are appearing, then this is a scene that's occurring inside yourself. This is actually very powerful, because if you begin this in a room, a small room, if you look and you pay attention to the space, rather than the objects in the space, you're seeing the space. And then as you watch the activity occurring in the space, you know, okay, if at all I want to compare, I compare myself to space. So this room is basically the same as my thinking process. I'm no longer doing this individualized thinking of myself as a person. Instead, I'm universally thinking that these thoughts are thought forms in this space that I am, and they're just moving about. But I have really nothing to do with it, because I'm taking the position of the space. And then as you get into a larger room with more people, and you walk down a hallway with more people in a bigger space, and then you go outside and you see the same thing, that the sky and all the objects inside this sky, around the land, all the buildings, all the people, all the cars, are just moving about inside this space that you are, this sky that you are. So you don't identify yourself with an individual, because your thought process is basically the manifestation, this universal consciousness, that you're no longer singularly identifying yourself as a person. Instead, you're identifying as sky, and that means all of this activity is occurring as a thought process inside of you.
Right. And there's no one there or no one doing it.
And there's no, the body that you believed yourself to be using as an individual is inside of this sky's thinking, so to speak, this bubble of illusion of which the sky is, or the room is. That's why I say it's good in a smaller room like this. You can just sit there and pay attention, formlessly aware. Okay, my selfless self, that selfless self is everywhere, like sky or space. If at all I want to compare, I compare myself to the space in this room in which all activities are occurring. And then I start to see other people in their rooms in which, in this room, there are 4 or 5 people, but I identify with the space. I'm not so much concerned anymore about the actual activities or what people are doing or saying, because I'm totally paying attention to the space. I'm identified as this selfless self, this formlessness that all of this activity is occurring inside of. And then I take it to a larger room and I see that when I pay attention to the space, yes, I can still respond to someone here, but when I'm paying attention to the space and that formless awareness, I'm not in a thinking process. And even because my thinking, I'm not paying attention to these thoughts anymore, my thinking has now become this out here, so to speak, that's inside of the formlessness. Rather than believing that thinking is going on in here, thinking is actually going on inside myself, that is the space I am, or the sky I am if I'm outside.
That's helpful.
But everything else is going on in that space too, right?
Exactly. And I really don't have any, because I'm the space that's provided for what these things are going on in. I'm paying attention to the space, that this is myself. I know my presence is everywhere in every being. So I'm paying attention to the space. Yes, I can still talk and converse with people, but I know that all of that talking and conversing is going on inside the space that I am. Or when I go outside, the sky that I am. And that's even more powerful, because I could be walking down a street and I can see cars, I can see people going in and out of the buildings, but I'm paying attention to the sky, knowing that if at all I want to compare, I compare myself to sky or space, and now it's sky because it's outside. And all of the town, all of the movement of the cars, all of the people, all of everything, including the body that I believed at one time that I was in, is inside the sky that I am. And I pay attention to the sky or the space and stop paying attention to the individual. And then I don't think that there's even consciousness, because consciousness I believed was there when I believed I was a body, and consciousness was like this flow of thoughts that I was getting. Now the objects in consciousness, so to speak, my thinking mind is the expansion of all things, and I am absolutely one with everything, because everything is occurring inside my selfless self. There can be no separation, because the world is just what I used to call thoughts when I was thinking from here.
No, that's helpful. I like that.
That's
tremendously different sense, tremendously different coming from space than coming from the mind.
Yes, because the mind, that's why the pressure of body knowledge has to go, so that I no longer believe that the thoughts that are flowing in nature are considered for this form, that these are the thinking thoughts of this one. Instead, thought becomes the manifestation. I'm the unmanifest in a quietude state in which the manifestation is occurring. All of manifestation is occurring on that spontaneous presence, which, if at all, I want to compare is sky or space. So in each situation, everything, all the activity, all the beings inside the space, so to speak, I'm concentrated on my selfless self and not on the objects moving about in the space. And yet I'll see, because they are one with my selfless self, and basically all of this world is then just the thought process of selfless self, so to speak, that I'm able to interact quite nicely because I'm the space, just as if I was having a dream and I understood that I was the dreamer projecting the dream world. All of this world, this manifestation, is projected on my spontaneous presence. And if I want to identify at all, if any identity comes, I'm the space, and everything in it is what I used to believe was a thought process, or when I laid down to sleep, projecting a dream world. The space is projecting the manifestation and the world, and I don't need to be concerned with the world because I'm the space that is being there to allow this to be seen.
There's also no personal aspect to it because it's all just, you know, even though
you're totally gone, so far removed from person.
Yeah, and you know, you might know that the other beings that you see, they could also be doing that, but you don't know that, you know, because they're.
Well, but it's occurring inside of yourself.
Yeah.
Just as a dream. You don't have to worry about or wonder about what the other, because you understand this space is selfless self, and it's providing the space for all of the activity. And yet I could identify with any one of the bodies that's inside the space that I am. So if one was giving trouble to the other one, I wouldn't know which one was me because I'm the space. And these are just activities and beings or people or whatever you want to call it inside the space. In order for me to remove myself from the formless state and try to identify with the body, I'd actually have a difficult time trying to see which body it was inside this space that I am that is, quote, me.
You know, and it's just a random thing that you're in or whatever, the body that shows up. I mean, you know, you have no control over that. So there's just.
You have no touch of body whatsoever, so you couldn't even have that thought. You see, all of your thinking is done in the manifest world. All your thoughts, and that's why Maharaj, I believe, says this is very, very interesting, because when you begin to see that your thoughts are no longer confined to like something in here, but that the entire manifestation is actually a thought process, and that all of these things that are moving around inside the formlessness that you are is being interacted with themselves inside of your own self or on your spontaneous presence. That's the key. No individuality at all. You can't. There's no body. There's no nothing. There's no thinking in here. This is not even now when you're walking, other than seeing yourself in the mirror, you won't not even know that you're a form because you're paying total attention to the space, the selfless self in which all of these objects are appearing and they're interacting, but you're unconcerned because all of this interaction is going on inside yourself, the bubble of illusion.
If everything's a manifestation of thought, then, and it's not really any particular person's thought, it's just like a...
there is no particular person. It's
right.
Just the space. And the space has, and it's not even witnessing because they're just objects in space. And you're paying attention to the space. You've stopped paying attention because you stopped believing yourself to be this body form, interacting with other bodies. And you're paying attention to your formlessness, keeping in touch with your selfless self as the space, as the sky, not identified as a body, therefore not seeing bodies, seeing forms moving around inside the space, which you are paying attention to deeply in your selfless self, and knowing at the highest level that all of this space is being projected. All of these things are being projected on your spontaneous presence. There's no longer the idea of identifying with anything or anyone because there is no one. And there's not even a one that can say there's no one. It's all the objects that are occurring inside of the space in the same way that you understand that you're dreaming and all of this dream world's projected and all of the objects inside of the dream are moving around. but it's the same. Then you don't have an individualized sense of self or thinking, because you are completely and totally involved with your selfless self, identifying as the space, and the objects that are appearing in the space are just doing their thing. Even this object that's appearing in the space has nothing to do with the selfless self, because the selfless self is merely providing the space for the objects to move about.
So our thoughts and things and the variety of stuff, are they like generating their own differences?
No thoughts, no, because your thoughts are actually the manifestation. Not inside an individual head and not having anything to do with a Keith. All of these forms are inside of your selfless self, which is the space that is provided for all of this manifestation to move around.
I guess I'm making a difference where there is none, I suppose.
Yeah, there's nothing, because it's all inside of you. See, you are identifying, like Maharaj says, if at all you want to compare yourself to space or sky. And you're actually more subtle than space or sky, but let's just say you're space. You're the space in this room in which all of these objects in this room are moving about and doing their thing. Like inside of this space right now, there is a laptop. In the laptop, there is an image of this speaker, and there is this speaker here sitting. So then there's all these speakers, and they're in the laptop, but they're inside the space. So all of this is occurring inside the space that you are. All these objects, you have no interest in what they do with their little day-to-day lives. There's nothing, because you're paying attention to the space. Of course, because you're paying attention to the space, when something is needed, boom, you'll drop in and do it, and that'll be it. But you're the space. When you walk down the hall and you see people walking and going into their offices, even if somebody comes up and says, "Good morning," you know that the hallway, everything that's occurring inside the space is just objects inside your invisible presence. And all of this is that you are. And so you're not concerned with how one's behaving with another one, because you're all of them, because you're just the space in which the objects are appearing. There's no longer individualized thinking. How can there be? Which individual are you?
I was wondering, does that tie into the Heart Sutra, which is form is none other than emptiness, emptiness is none other than form?
No, just space, and all the objects are occurring inside of it.
Yeah.
There's no Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra is something that came about inside the space that I am through the objects that were believing themselves to be separate individuals at one time on the spiritual experience to become the space that I am. So I'm not concerned with that.
But it did seem like what you were talking about is kind of a version of that, you know.
Okay, okay. Like Maharaj says, the whole thing is your story. All of these is just your story. Everything is pointing to you. But you're the space that's providing all of the space for the activities to occur. And that's why when the death of this body, the space is unaffected. There's no... And you've long since lost any idea of a personality or an individual or anything like that, because mantra has allowed that mind to be quiet so that you could actually extend yourself into yourself, which is the selfless self. And then you can start to think of the thought process as the movement that's stirring inside of the space that you are, but has nothing to do individually. I guess they could call it individual consciousness to universal consciousness, but then the truth is manifestation is the universal consciousness without a thinker, without a thought, without consciousness, just space that provides the space for objects to move about. You're totally unconcerned because you're just the space. Or the sky. That's the really powerful experience when you go outside and you see, like in a park, people are picnicking and all that. But all of that are objects occurring inside the sky that you are. All of them. So which one is you? You thought this was you only because you're using these eyes in a way to see inside of this bubble, because the space can't see, so it's using your eyes to be able to see and interpret what's going on inside the space. But now you're just remaining as the space, remaining as the sky. There's no thoughts, because your thoughts are actually manifestation. Your quietude is disrupted in a way by this manifestation that's occurring inside. It's providing the movement. All the elements are doing what they're doing. All the bodies are doing what they're doing. Everything's doing what it's doing, but you're just the space that's being, you're providing the space for all this activity. And that's it.
The function, we talked about that before, the function of the body is for the divine to know itself.
Yes, on the step, on the stage, the progressive steps to be gone, so that you know yourself in a real sense. Once you touch yourself in this formlessness, and you know yourself in a real sense, from the individualized sense of self, this dissolves, because now, okay, I'm formlessness. And then you can say formlessness using a body. But now we're going a little bit deeper and saying, this is the formlessness using the body, but it's using all the bodies, because now I'm keeping my attention on space. So that's all I see is this space. Completely, I stay in touch. Like we were talking about before, the subtleties. I'm no longer paying attention to the objects in the space. All of my focus is on the space, or the formlessness, the invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity in which all of this activity is occurring.
You could say that you're inside the mind of God in a way.
Well, you are God, and your thoughts are then creating this manifestation, if you want to look at it in this way. But that is, again, that can bring concepts, because God is a concept.
Yeah.
You are God before the word God was. And then when the word God came, it was labeled for who you are. And since there was otherness, you were confused as to, okay, there's a God greater than me. No, you're labeled God. The greatest of all is labeled God, but it's labeled God only from the perspective of an individual that's trying to have a relationship with something other and greater than itself. But it's always been you. That's why when Maharaj says, you are ultimate truth, nothing left, nothing in back of you. From that formlessness, that's just this in Nisargadatta Maharaj always, I'm reading these various books every night and in the morning and stuff, just to keep this whole thing going. And it's I am, but it's not I am, like repeat I am. It's that sense of presence. You're continuously diving into that sense of presence while you still have the idea that there's attention that can be diverted, because your attention is not yet one with itself. But once you keep having this attention, then this I am, this presence, will absorb this idea. You invite the attention of the invisible listener, and it's like taking a glove and turning it inside out. You're inviting the attention of the invisible listener, who's then seeing, oh, so that I, this formlessness I am. I'm not this body. And now, like, this conversation tonight has gone one step further. It's not that I'm just not a body. I'm the space in which all these bodies are appearing and moving about. I'm providing everything. And that's why Maharaj uses the example of the dream, because it's the same way. The space and all the objects inside the space are the same as the space that's created in the dream world. All of it is happening. Only even in dream, you usually are identifying with someone, one of the people. Don't identify with anything other than the space, and paying attention to the space, paying attention to the invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity as that sense of presence arising through body form, and that's it.
It makes it easy to love things, everything.
There's no even there. This love is like everything is yourself. So it's nothing. But you're not even thinking that. So you see, because you're the space. How does the space love? And Maharaj would say, prior to beingness, or after leaving the body. Prior to beingness, do you know anything about love? No, you're completely unknown to yourself. You didn't even know you were until you clicked with a body and said, I am. Or felt this I am, felt this presence, and then this presence identified. This presence that I'm feeling is in this body. And then my mom says, you're this. And then I do good things and bad things. And an egoistic sense of self is developed from the presence, thinking that it's in a body and that it is a body. But then this journey continues until you understand that I'm the presence that originally clicked with the body. In order for there to be a click with the body, there had to be a presence prior to body to click with the body.
Till it unclicks.
Well, basically, yeah, it's just, it unclicks, yeah.
What would it feel like? What would it feel like once it unclicks? Would it feel like anything?
Well, again, this is going to be using imagination other than the idea that you know that there is the formless sense of presence. That formless sense of presence is fully aware using body form. So as it's leaving the body, the registration will be that I'm leaving this body, but there will be nothing after that because you will no longer know yourself. You will not have a body to use to know this. That's why you know yourself in the real sense now. So you know you're the formlessness, whether you're in a body or you're not in a body. Prior to body, you were there to click with the body and say, I am. After leaving the body, you'll be there, but you'll have no instrument to say I am, nor will you have mind, ego, and intellect to be thinking about any thoughts.
You know, I think that's why in the Catholic Church they call a thing called purgatory. I don't know if anybody else had this background, but it's the idea that the souls could not do anything for themselves, which means that they don't have the opportunity of recognizing because the instrument is gone. I don't know. I've been trying to figure out what that doctrine actually means because, you know, it's sort of in my background. So, but I think,
remember too that you can't take any of this stuff literally. Maharaj says that all the time about the other spiritual books. Look at the Bible, and the Bible has basically many, many stories that are, there was something, that something died and it changed form.
yeah.
There was something, that something died and it changed form. Whether it be Jesus, whether it be Noah, you know, when, okay, there was this something, there was this world, then the flood, it wiped everything out, and it changed. It changed form. Life from death, so to speak. It changed form. Prior to beingness, you were formless. After leaving the body, you'll be formless. For a time, the known is here, but it came from the unknown, and it will go back to the unknown. Because this form is the illusion inside. All of this appeared on your spontaneous presence. That's why, again, we pay attention to the sky, to the space, and not to the objects that are appearing inside of that space. Because we can't have any thoughts about the space. We can just be deeper and deeper into our own selfless self. The bliss of remaining with yourself and not chasing thoughts and not chasing world because you're identifying with the space rather than the objects that are appearing inside of them is, what more do you want?
Well, I think that's what it means when they say being in the world, but not of it.
The world is inside of you. The world is you. The world is yours, is projected on your spontaneous presence. If you identify with space, then the world is occurring inside the space and is the illusion of the objects that are moving about that you used to believe you were in, but it is actually in you. Because when you go outside and you look at the sky, all the buildings, all the people, all the churches, whether it be synagogue or whatever, whether it be the whatever, all of it is occurring inside yourself.
Yeah.
And Mary is saying good night. Good night.
Good night,
Good
Mary.
night.
Good night.
We'll get the recording.
Well, this saying it the way you're saying it makes me want to live longer because if I'm gonna not experience anything after death, at least now I do experience bliss. I do experience bliss now, and I'm starting to get where the bliss and witness is coming along with doing the mantra, whereas before it was just pretty random, and but now there seems to be some connection that's partly due to Ramana Maharshi said that, well, I read recently where he said that when you're doing the mantra, pay attention to the space around the mantra and the source of the mantra. and I found that it was that neither of those are really known. The source or the space are not known, but I feel now the bliss of being the unknown, seeing what could be called manifestation or the known. And if I'm gonna, there's a certain amount of bliss and ability to love all that being inside of me, but not being it. But if I'm going to lose that ability to love and the bliss that I'm starting to feel, then I wouldn't want to die.
Well, again, but you're never born. So the idea of not dying is just not facing the reality. There's no birth and there's no death. You're the formlessness, the invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity.
But if I'm not going to know but at least now I know myself in a sense, or I feel myself.
Once you truly do, once you're remaining with your selfless self, that formlessly aware, that sense of presence, then none of the things that you're saying will make any sense at all.
Yeah.
Because you'll be just with your selfless self.
Hopefully that's good news.
Formlessly aware. Again, paying attention to the space, not the objects inside the space. When you remain with your selfless self, there's nothing. You understand? There is nothing. Because the mind can only present ideas to you in form, the formlessness. So you can discriminate and discard that very right away. This body has different various relations, but they're not your relations. They're actually you. The only way that you can have the sense of separation is with the false belief that you're in a body. Otherwise, there can't be separation to the formlessness. But because you have the false idea that you're a body, you can create this idea of separation. But there is no separation because you're not in a body. The body is in you. The space in this room that you are, this body is in that space. Now, the space is also inside the body. And like it's talked about, when the pot cracks, the space and the space are the same. But all of this bliss and all this stuff that you're talking about is remaining with your selfless self. And you'll get the profound sense of presence will actually drown out thoughts. It'll cause, instead of things reacting very, very fast, I think it's like honey it's talked about. You know, it sticks and it kind of pulls. So you're not reacting and you're not jumping into everything and going into the pleasure and pain.
Well, that's what I'm getting is where it is. The mantra is starting to actually block thoughts, and I'm getting free of thoughts. And but it's that feels like it's freedom, and it feels like it doesn't feel like any particular thing, but it still feels like something good.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, that's
you without the ideas and beliefs that you were holding about yourself, and you'll start to you'll feel like you're expanding, but you're not.
Like nothing is something. It's like it seems like nothing is good.
Well, nothing is nothing. If there's still something, then you're adding quality to the quality less. You know what I'm saying? Reality is completely neutral. There's no quality of good or bad or anything in it. So if you're pouring quality in, that's fine. It's a progressive step. But believe me, once you get in touch with your selfless self, Keith's wants and desires and ideas and beliefs, they're gone out the window. So you don't need to worry, because the selfless self will erase that Keith that you believe yourself to be.
That sounds good.
It is very good.
I'm not like
because then you can
afraid of that.
You can well, yeah, see, mind believes that that's the death of yourself, because you're like, oh my God, if Keith is not here, how will I do? What will I do?
I'm not personally afraid of that, you know.
Okay, good. But this,
what I find
concept,
is,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. What I find is, like, when I'm in a relationship and I'm, talking to the other person, then I get back into being a person.
Well, pay attention to the space that's surrounding both you and this other person, knowing that all of this is occurring inside of that space that you are. The speaking and listening will still happen. It will actually happen most beautifully. just as a dream world is projected and there's speaking and listening going on inside the dream, without either person knowing that they're being projected by a dreamer. Pay attention to the space and you'll respond appropriately, because you won't have any, there can't be mind, ego, intellect when you're fully involved in the invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. When you're fully identifying, okay, this space, if at all I want to compare, I compare myself to space or sky. These actions are occurring inside that space. Both of these objects in the space are myself and are not myself. So I don't have to be concerned with what's going on with them.
I gotcha. So you're not busily mulling over all this stuff in your mind.
No, you pay
Because
attention.
there's no mind.
You pay attention to the space and allow the selfless self to speak spontaneously using the voice box that you're providing.
Oh, I like that. That's helpful.
And you'll see, because the truth is that space, your indirect, all of this that you believe is outside yourself is actually inside yourself and is merely a thought process like you used to think was going on in here is actually going on out here. The gunas, as it's talked about, Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas and all that, the gunas are the thinking in the manifestation, moving everything around inside yourself, because manifestation is appearing on your spontaneous presence. Therefore, you don't have to be concerned with that. Remain with your selfless self. And again, if you want to compare, if you want an object for the attention, as long as there's a need for an object of attention, use the attention, the object of the space, identifying that this space, I am. All that's occurring inside the space is occurring inside the space that I'm providing, yet I'm not any of the objects inside the space. That this consciousness that was the individual, this thinking is actually out here, which is still inside myself, but in relation to body is outside the space, the sky, and everything that's contained in the space or sky. It's very nice, like I said, to try this in a smaller room, even with your own self, just looking around and knowing, okay, I'm paying attention to the space in this room and everything is inside that space. Then I go into a little bit larger room with more people. Hallway, very nice, people moving and coming. And I'm looking down the hallway knowing that the space that I'm identifying with and all this activity is occurring, these forms are moving about inside the space. I'm just providing the space, but I'm not interested in what the forms inside the space are doing. Then when I go into a larger room, and then eventually outside where I see the sky, when I really look at the sky and deeply am in touch with my selfless self, knowing that all of the things are occurring inside my selfless self. Sky can't think about anything. Sky is not worried about anything. And I identify with that, if at all I want to compare. And you're more subtle than sky because sky is projected on your spontaneous presence. And this right away gets rid of mind, ego, intellect, thinking, all that, because sky has none of these. Sky has none of these. Space has none of these. And yet there is activity going on inside the space, and I'm the space that's providing the space for the activity that's going on inside. All the gunas are moving things about, and all the flesh and blood and all that, the five elements are all together, and they're all inside the space that I am doing their thing, and I am unconcerned.
Do you know what a fractal is? You probably do, right?
A fractal? I've heard of it, like in the string theory or something. Like
well, it's a design like you could. It's much like a kaleidoscope or kind of like a mandala. Usually you can have moving fractals or you can look at them as stills, but it's like everything's coming from a center, or not, there is no actual center, but everything's opening. And so you haven't actually watched, I mean, they're in like music videos, or they use fractals in entertainment. I'm sure you've seen one, but maybe you haven't actually know what they are called. But I just was wondering, I was hoping you did know, because sometimes I feel like I'm a fractal almost.
Well,
Like,
remember, Maharaj says, you are the center point of this entire world. Without your presence, the world is not.
but I mean, I can't distinguish a center, but like I can't say this particular spot is a center, but I sort of get a sense of what that means.
Well, when the spirit clicks with the body and you see the world, the dead body can't see the world. You're using this dead body right now as an instrument. But again, when you're identifying with the space of the sky, then all these dead bodies are moving around based on the presence that you are in the space that you are. And again, you're unconcerned with any of it. The center point of the entire world is that presence, which is just a spark of presence.
But it wouldn't be an individual spark, right?
Not from a personal type individual, no. There is only one, yes.
Thought thinks about things as being like a single point or something, but it's more. It would be more. It would be. I don't know what it would be.
Well, your beingness, all the senses are basically feeding information to this beingness, and this beingness appeared on your spontaneous presence. The beingness will go, all the senses, everything will go with that. All the information and knowledge that were picked up through the senses that were added to this beingness will also dissolve, and then there will just be your own selfless self.
And that would be considered a point?
I suppose if you would think of it as the beingness and the sense I am is arising from your selfless self, and that would be the single point in which the entire world was perceived. But all of the senses are just kind of reporting back to this beingness, and you're sort of just, this beingness has just appeared on you, but is not your natural state at all. I think Nisargadatta Maharaj calls it a fever. This beingness is a fever or a boil on the butt of selfless self. And this, all these senses are kind of reporting information to this beingness. The beingness will go, and all the sensory information and all the knowledge and everything that was picked up with beingness will be gone.
So the world will disappear.
The world is a projection of your spontaneous presence. It's not like that. Spirit clicks with the body and you see the world. But this world is being seen from that sense of I amness, so to speak. Again, everything came out of nothing. Everything goes back into nothing. The thing that you're thinking you're seeing and interacting in is the little bit of something that's perceptually being perceived as something in the nothing and will fall back into nothing. A momentary blip on the radar, so to speak. Just like Maharaj talks about the dream world. You go to sleep, you project this dream world, you're in the dream world, everything's great, you wake up, dream world's gone. Where did all the people inside your dream world go? They never were, so where did they go? They never were. They were nothing. They went back into nothing. They were nothingness, that they appeared to be something for a time, and they were animated with a story by the dreamer, which is now, when the dreamer awakes, it's gone.
Yeah.
And inside the dream, if there were some people who were praying to God every day in a church, and other people who were sinning and going crazy and burning the houses down, what is what? when you open your eyes, all the dream people are gone, and there's no heaven or hell because they never were. This empty form is being filled with conceptual ideas and belief, and you're dumping like excess into something that's not.
But the world will be gone, right?
For you.
Yeah.
But the world never was. So it's hard to say. You're saying the world will be gone, but the illusion, you will no longer be experiencing the illusion through the illusory perception.
Like waking up from a dream.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning.
It's hard to say the world will be gone because it never was. So exactly, you wake up from a dream in the morning, boom, it's gone. Yet in the middle of the night, you may only be in the dream, you know, the REM sleep or whatever, dreaming for like 5 minutes, but sometimes it can seem like a very long time. Well, this is a long dream. I am somebody else. And when you snap out of that dream, meaning you stop, you unclick with the body, as we said, so to speak. You can't unclick really because there's nowhere for you to go. But your attention is no longer paid on this form as something. This beingness is no longer, the food juices are no longer providing the food for this beingness as it's spoken about. So there is nothing. But there's nothing now, it's just appearing to be something. And again, the dream example. The I am somebody else has created this long dream. And it'll be over. And when it's over, where did all the dream people go? Where did all the illusory people go? The unborn child is worried about where it will be buried.
I guess what I'm doing is, okay, like right now, I'm thinking about my experience that I say I had yesterday. Yesterday, I was doing mantra and I was experiencing the purity of not knowing myself, but just being whatever is there, but not knowing what it is. And it felt like very free. And now I'm like reflecting on that, even though I still have a sense of what I was feeling then that's present now. I'm still, when I think about it, talk about it, I'm thinking of it as being an experience.
Yeah, so it's illusory.
Yeah.
Because the truth is you have no experience, no experiencer.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, it's not, there's no, like Maharaj says, there's no harm.
Yeah, it's not like it's hurting myself.
No, you continue to do mantra like you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Spiritual experiences will occur while doing mantra. Maharaj has said it could be good spiritual experience like what you were experiencing. It could be negative spiritual experience, but they're just experiences on your spontaneous presence. Not to make too much about them and get caught up in this experience or the mind trying to desire to have the experience again. It should be just touched and gone. This is an experience, progressive step, very nice, but it's finished. And continue mantra. More experience comes. You've seen and heard. There are people in the ashram who say Nisargadatta Maharaj has appeared before them and opened doors to golden light. But again, remember, Master says, all experience appears upon your spontaneous presence and is illusion. Even you identify yourself as space or sky. If you're sitting here doing mantra, then the space is more of a ethereal, non-form type space, but nonetheless, it's space. So if during your meditation and your mantra, you see Nisargadatta Maharaj appear before you and open a door with golden light flowing in, it's very nice, but it's not the reality. It's not ultimate truth. You don't stop there. Because if you stop there, you'll be like, wow, Nisargadatta has come and opened the door to the golden light. It's flowing, feel the light. It's a good progressive experience, but not to stop.
Well, reality won't let you stop, will it?
Well, if you, again, like Maharaj says, you fall into the ditch, you want to enjoy. I think he talked about one devotee that was having insane spiritual experiences. It's talked about in Selfless Self.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like really having these powerful spiritual experiences, but then he started craving the spiritual experiences, the spiritual powers, the spiritual experiences. And when he stopped receiving the spiritual experiences, he wanted to go away from mantra and the lineage and go to different masters and this and that to try and gain more experience. And he then died very pitifully, as Maharaj says. I think it's either in Selfless Self or he may have said this on one of the talks. But the guy died very pitifully because his last thought was he betrayed his master for spiritual experience that was absolutely illusion. So he gave away his selfless self for a momentary, powerful spiritual experience. When I say momentary, it could be years. You could have years of just glowing, but you're involved with the spiritual experience and not remaining with the selfless self in which all experience occurs. When you know yourself in a real sense as the formlessness, there can be no experience except inside the formlessness or on that spontaneous presence that you are. So therefore, it's nice. It's viewed just like any other scene that may be passing, but there's no like grasping. It's good though. Believe me, keep mantra. As I've gone through similar things of just mantra, and then there's like nice space and so much peace. Then a little bit tension. Okay, mantra. It's good. Master, you take first step, master takes the next step, and it just keeps flowing. And all of this is good. Just don't get caught in the spiritual experiences and the trap of desiring a deeper spiritual experience. Concentrate on the selfless self, listening to the mantra, remaining, meditating on the meditator, concentrating on the concentrator. And all that appears as illusion, it can be seen and finished.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I think it's time.
Indeed, I just looked at the clock. I said, oh, 8:17. Good. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Enjoy
Thank
your
you,
night.
everybody. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you for showing up. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.